Here. All right. Are we recording? Perfect. Okay, good. Thanks so much for that. So welcome to today's topic on financial wellness. Today's topic is really focused around saving. How do you save during a time like we're in today? What's important when it comes to savings? um, long-term savings, what does that look like? How has that changed? So really hoping to have an interactive conversation today around savings and some strategies that you can deploy if you're looking to either rebuild some savings if you've started to tap into that during this time, or maybe you've realized that you need a little bit more savings than you've had in the past. So hopefully we can get your questions answered. And if not, as always, please feel free to reach out directly with any questions, comments, concerns. My name is Michelle Crocker. I work for KeyBank. Hopefully you've seen my face before on webinars like this. I manage the financial wellness program offered through KeyBank, and we've been doing several of these sessions. So hopefully you've been able to participate. If not, there are recordings that are available for distribution through the benefits team. So if you'd like to view any previous recordings, please let us know. A little background on me for those of you that don't know me. I've been doing this job for the past couple of years, but I have about 20 years experience in the banking industry. I've held various roles, including branch manager, licensed branch manager, but I always bring an expert banker along with me who is out in the real world, actually meeting with clients every day. So today we have the pleasure of having Sam Mulheron here with us. She is a branch manager in our Bangor area. So for those of you that are in Bangor, she's going to be local to you. For those of you that aren't in Bangor, that's okay. She can still be a resource for you, and she'll talk about some ways that she's able to connect with you virtually. But Sam, do you want to take a second and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Michelle. Like Michelle said, I'm the branch manager at the Bangor Mid-Mall location. I have been a personal banker, and now I am the branch manager here. And like she said, if you're not in the area, we still can meet. I can still be a resource. I love what I do because I get to work with all kinds of people and just get to help everyone. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and back to you, Michelle.
Great, thanks, Sam. So hopefully we can have sort of an interactive conversation today. And for those of you who are listening to the recording, again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So we're going to talk about why is savings important, what are savings goals, different types of savings needs, and also how do you save in an environment that we're in today. So hopefully we can cover all of that for you. But just to kind of start out with, why is saving so important? I think we can all recognize that a credit card isn't necessarily a savings strategy. We all need savings for a variety of different reasons. So one could be it can help you through an unexpected or unplanned expense. Having that money set aside can really provide you with peace of mind to know that you're not going to have an extra expense if you do need to use some type of lending product in order to navigate through a financially potentially stressful situation. But there's other reasons to save too. It can be for larger expenses. So planning for education costs for a family member can be another reason to save, and there are certain vehicles that you use, which we'll talk about for that planning. You also will save for retirement, and retirement is one of those things that it sneaks up on you. Sometimes people put off retirement savings thinking, well, I'll get to that once I, have my kids, and once I get, the house that I've always wanted, and when I have all the things that I want, then I'll start saving for retirement. We're going to just kind of talk through, strategies for planning to retire more comfortably. And then also we save to prepare for some larger purchases. So things like buying a home, paying for a wedding, paying for other large expenses are another reasons to save. And if you think about any of these scenarios, if you find yourself in a position where the time is upon you and you haven't appropriately planned, that can create stress. So if, hopefully we're able today to help you find some different strategies that are going to work for you to be able to set it and forget it when it comes to savings in some cases, set up some reoccurring savings plans, and also find some money maybe in your budget that you can repurpose and dedicate towards those savings goals. Sam, what else would you add here around the importance of savings and all of that?
The biggest thing that I find is the unexpected expenses. That's the biggest reason that I feel like savings should be prioritized, because it's unexpected. You're not planning for it. And that's what we see a lot in the branches is when their car breaks down, when their roof has a leak in it. The stuff they weren't expecting, and you just want to make sure that you're prepared, and when you're more prepared you have less stress, as you said.
Absolutely. Great. So we already talked about this a little bit. Think about what are your savings goals. It's always easier to save for something if you have, that picture on your refrigerator, if you will, of the goal that you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it can help you make better choices when it comes to certain things. If you really think about that goal and think about the money that you're dedicating towards a savings, whatever it is a reward for you and not something that you're giving up or something that you're taking away from something that might give you a little bit more instant satisfaction right now. So when I think about savings, and I think about some changes that folks can make, I just want to kind of level the playing field here for a minute and talk about the fact that most folks who are uh, living their everyday lives as Americans don't have enough saved. So if you're sitting here thinking, it would be great if I had savings, maybe I'm abnormal that I don't have savings, that's probably not the case. This was a survey that was done pre-COVID, and I think we'd actually maybe even see some higher numbers now in the world that we're in. But even before this pandemic and this crisis that we've been in, if you were to ask folks out on the street, if they could face a $400 emergency and not have to borrow or sell something, 44% of those people would say no, they'd have to actually borrow or sell something. So our goal obviously would be to not have anybody in that situation, but the more people we can get to a better place when it comes to savings, ultimately that's where we feel we'll be successful. So Sam and I kind of, tossed around some ideas before this session. We were like, okay, what's going on in the real world? When it comes to how are people saving right now? Some people we've talked about on previous sessions. Sometimes people have experienced a reduction in income. Sometimes people have received maybe a little bit more income and they've been, maybe not saving it. What are some, and we can kind of have a open dialogue about this, Sam, what are some things that you've kind of seen that have worked for people to find money that they can save in an environment where maybe they've experienced some significant changes in their lifestyle?
So a lot of things that we've seen, Michelle, is people taking a look, especially on their online banking, and seeing what they're purchasing, seeing where they can cut, whether or not that's not eating out as much, um, drinking coffee at home. I've actually seen people that have, made sacrifices and chose not to have Netflix over other provider, just to save even, $16 a month. A lot of things that we are also seeing is, where can you refinance some credit card debt or some high interest loans, consolidating the debt and making their payments smaller. That'll save them money in the long run, but really people right now are focused on um, how much money they're spending a month, especially the people that have been really affected by COVID and have seen a change in their pay.
So it's funny, $16 a month, that doesn't sound like much, right? I just
No,
quickly did the math while you were talking. That's $192 a year.
it is.
So
Yeah.
when you're thinking about, what are your goals and where do you want to be? Imagine, I mean, at $192 a year doesn't sound like a lot, but we just saw a statistic that, 44% of people didn't have $400 saved. If you give
Yeah,
up your $16 a month subscription for 2 years, you're there, or you're basically there to have that $400 saved. So sometimes it's just little things, right?
it
It's a
adds up.
commitment. Yeah, it's a commitment to just making one small change with the goal that you're not going to deviate from that plan and you're really going to automate the savings. So talking about automating your savings, Sam, KeyBank has a program. What is it called? Easy Up? Is that what we call it?
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about automating savings when it comes to any methods
Mhm.
using the debit card with the Easy Up or setting up automatic transfers? What do you usually recommend people do when it comes to automating their savings?
Yeah, so it's going to be different for everyone, but something that I love about KeyBank, and we talk a lot about it, is our Easy Up program. It's it, it it's thoughtless. It happens automatically, and you dictate um, the amount. So basically, what it is you would set it up on your online banking, and every time you swipe your debit card, you can pick an amount to go over to your savings account. So it really is like rounding up a purchase. If I go to Dunkin', just tack another dollar on, and it goes right over to my savings. And that's an easy way to build it without even thinking about it. Something that I actually used recently with our mobile app, because I really want to increase my savings more than what I had been. And I set up transfers to happen. We get paid bi-weekly, every other week, to transfer right over to my savings account. But then also I added transferring over to my children's savings accounts. So it the mobile app is really diverse, and you can set it up to do every week, once, every other week, every month, and you can change it at any time, which I like. And you really are in control of your savings. So there are a bunch of different ways.
So sometimes automated savings is a great way to, sort of set it and forget it. That's what we all do with our 401ks. We never even see the money, so we don't even realize that it's going in there. It's money that we've never budgeted for. So that's always a best practice, even if money's really, really tight. I've heard you talk, Sam, about, the client that could only afford $5 a month, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you were able to get them to the point where that was, over $100. But it's in a lot of cases just starting really, really, really small
Yeah.
and working up to it from there and making it out of sight, out of mind. I know I have a savings account that it's actually hidden from my online banking, and I've suggested that to people before too.
Mhm.
So you can actually hide accounts from yourself. So if you've got those automatic things happening behind the scenes,
Mhm.
if you're never seeing it, if you're never seeing that money come out, you're never seeing it grow in a savings account, you might even just forget that it's happening, and you'll be surprised really how quickly it can add up
Yeah.
if you're not thinking about it. It's that mindless, thought process.
Yep.
So other things, as we were sort of talking through different ideas of things that people are doing today that they maybe weren't doing before and I've, Sam and I talked, and I've spoken with some other bankers as well, is meal prepping at home, right? So I know you guys have seen, I'm in my kitchen here. I never leave my kitchen. In the past, my routine was to work hard all day, be on the road, and be too tired to want to cook dinner when I got home. So I was spending a lot of money on takeout, right? Pick up the Chinese, pick up the Pizza Hut, pick up the, whatever on the way home. And now that's not necessarily anything that's in my world because of the way that I've had to adapt and change with the environment that we're in. So, it's obviously going to be unique to you if you're still, working more now than you ever were before. Meal prepping might not be a way for you to save money per se. But when you think about the way that you've operated your day and how that has changed over the past few months, you might be surprised at some things that you are finding that you're just not spending money on, and you can better, you can save more money by in my case, going to the grocery store and making the steak and cheese sandwiches for everyone, as opposed to paying steak and cheese, buying steak and cheese sandwiches for everybody at the store downtown. So, anything along that line, Sam, that you can think of that your other clients have sort of implemented as part of the world that we're in today?
Yeah, it's making changes. Everything's changing around us and we have to adapt to it. And, I think a good exercise that I've seen one of my clients do was track the grocery bill and then compare to how much are you spending when you do takeout. And you could be quite surprised how much money you are spending. Um, so that's a good way to kind of see where the savings are going. And a lot of people are, eating at home. A lot of people are meal prepping just because they want to save that extra money. Because this event definitely has, scared people and made people realize that maybe I don't have enough savings in case something like this happens again.
Sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I think about like even rewards programs in the
Mhm.
past. If I had a reward, from my credit card, let's say my cashback reward, in the past, what I might have done is I might have said, you know what, I'm just going to take that off my bill for next month and reduce my, actually what I spent in the month, but not really add it to my savings. And if I think about, if I'm in a position where I'm trying to grow my savings account, I'm probably still going to spend the same money on necessities and things like I was doing before. But if I can take that cashback bonus or that reward that I've gotten from using my credit card and put it in my savings account and watch it grow there, that can be another great way to sort of, it was money that was really, you never had it before, money that you can actually just throw in the savings and have as that emergency fund or that plan for the future. Other things, looking at energy costs, those of us that have been home a bit more might have seen our energy costs increase as people are using technology more, just being home more. And so went through some scenarios that we've talked with people, and also just looking at articles. Some energy saving ideas that can really help are having an energy audit of your home done to see where you're really using your electricity and how you can cut back on that bill, again using that savings to be put towards your short or long-term savings goals. Some strategies that I've seen people implement are things like using cold water when you're washing your clothes. So it seems simple and crazy, but that can actually make a difference if you're not running the water heater. Also, when it's a nice day, if you live in a city, it might not be an option, but if you're out in rural Maine, where many of us are, if you are hanging your clothes out to dry as opposed to using the clothes dryer, that can be another way to save with energy efficiency. But efficiencymaine.org is a resource that's available with some great rebates for making energy improvements to your home, which could actually end up in resulting in some longer term savings overall. Other things that you've seen when it comes to energy efficient savings, Sam?
So some people that have found themselves with extra money now, I have gotten a lot of calls about solar panels. So figuring out a long-term way to save money and be more energy efficient. I have seen people doing that a lot. I think I got 2 calls today.
I want solar panels for my house. Maybe I should look into that too.
Yeah.
So when you think about saving, so I hope we've given you a few ideas on some strategies that you can incorporate when it comes to dedicating money towards a certain savings goal. But now I think what I'd like to do is just spend a little bit of time talking about where do you place that money once you've sort of identified it as money that you're going to save for a particular goal. Savings account interest rates. I've done a lot of shopping lately online, looking at different banks and financial institutions, credit unions, online companies. And what I've learned, and Sam, I'd love to hear your experience, is that interest rates are really terrible right now.
Yeah,
um,
there's no other way of putting it.
so I would think that people would say, well, interest rates are terrible. Why don't I just keep that money in my checking account? It's accessible to me. If I need it, it's there. I don't take the risk of overdrawing my account. Um, but why is it important to have a separation of that money? And looking at the examples here on the screen, can you kind of talk us through the difference between what types of things I might put in my regular savings and what types of things I might put in my money market savings?
Yeah, so with this, whenever people say, and I see this all the time in the branch, I'm just going to put it all in my checking. That definitely makes me a little nervous because you're using a debit card that's attached to that checking account, and all that money is accessible on that card. So it's not as secure as a savings account that doesn't have a card attached to it. That would be the first thing that I would think of. Savings account also, when you have it sitting there, you don't think about it and you don't have access to it unless you're transferring online, but it's not readily right there for you to spend. So having that separation, I feel like for clients is really important towards saving toward long-term goals. Um, yeah, so that would be
Yeah,
my thoughts.
I think it's such a good point. The savings account, I sort of think of the savings account is where I'm going to put that money that I have to get my hands on, for something specific, but I maybe don't want it in my checking account. So I might use a savings account for my overdraft protection if I'm worried that I might, overdraw my account, but I'm not going to keep the lion's share, the bulk of my longer term savings in a regular savings account. Number one, because it doesn't pay any interest. And number two, because I don't want the larger part of my savings being at risk if I am using a savings account as overdraft protection. Now, we all know that Visa and MasterCard provides protection against fraud. I don't want to scare anybody by saying it doesn't, but it can be a pain if your account is accessed. Usually, in most cases, you end up getting your money back, but it just takes time. And so, just sort of keeping that you know real emergency fund in the standard savings account, and then moving any money over into a money market account that potentially has the opportunity to earn more interest, but really just protected at another layer from
Yep.
any other types of withdrawals and things. And then health savings accounts, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Maine Veterans Home does offer a health savings account, not through KeyBank, but we do offer those as well, and recommend health savings as another way to plan for the unexpected. And this actually is in a tax advantaged way. So when you contribute to a health savings account and you do it through payroll deduction, your money actually is deposited tax free. It grows tax free. So whatever rate of interest that you're earning is actually tax free growth. And then as long as you use it for qualified medical expenses, it comes out tax free. So it's triple tax advantage, never has any taxes associated when it's specifically used for medical expenses. And at age 65, there's a provision that you can actually use it for non-medical expenses. And it ends up having taxes, but not at least on the front end, and you've been able to save over time with the health savings account. So if that's something that you haven't saved for, maybe you do have a medical expense coming up. That's not one of the reasons that we listed in the beginning of reasons to save, but it's a real thing. If you are expecting to have any type of medical event that you're going to need to pay for out of pocket, a health savings account is a great way to take advantage of some tax benefits, as well as really just planning for the future. Anything to add on health savings, Sam?
No, it's a really great idea. I always say you're always probably going to need something, some medical expense, some glasses. You're going to use it. And it's really just another way to save for inevitable stuff that you're going to have to pay for, and being prepared.
And not having to pull that money out of the checking account that you've budgeted for groceries and wonder, all right, so I just spent $200 on glasses. Now I'm not sure how I'm going to pay for the groceries. So another
Yep.
great way to just kind of give an account a purpose, set it and forget it, and have money available to you when the time comes that you actually need it. There are other types of longer term investments, which we can kind of talk about, things like CDs and investment accounts. Really, when I think about these are for either your retirement plan, your education savings, or if you're saving for a longer period of time for a particular expense. So let's say you have a dream of buying a home, you're going to need a down payment, you've got a chunk of money saved for that. You can usually get a better interest rate by putting it into a CD. That's one reason to have a CD. Other reasons to have a CD, though, are just to keep it from yourself so that you can't touch it, and be that another level of protection when it comes to CDs. So again, interest rates aren't great right now on CDs. So maybe today is not the reason. Maybe the interest rate isn't the reason today to put money in a CD, more so than to just have it in a place that it's protected and insured, and it's going to renew at a particular point in time. Anything on CDs or investment accounts that you think we should add there, Sam?
I'll just reiterate what you said. CDs are a great option. I love them. Like you said, they kind of save it from yourself, and it's nice to watch it grow. And it's something that you just don't touch, and it renews. And like you said, it's safe. So I really do. I think CDs are a great option right now. The rates are not great, but definitely something to consider.
Awesome. And then when it comes to an investment account, the best advice that I would give you there is investment accounts are for long-term savings. And you should be working with a professional if you're dealing with any type of investment account. So your 403b that you have, if you're contributing to that through the Maine Veterans Home, there's a the company that is issued through, and you can certainly take a look at your allocations. If at any time you want a second set of eyes, you should certainly reach out to a financial professional for that second set of eyes. But my advice with investment accounts is don't try to do it on your own. They're complicated, they're tricky, and they really are long-term accounts. So seek professional advice is the best advice that I would give you when it comes to any type of investment account. And our partners in Key Investment Services, many of you maybe have seen or talked to one of our advisors, Dave Robbins. He's been to a number of these presentations, is always willing to sit with you and have a conversation about any type of long-term savings. I was actually speaking with him earlier today, and he said, Michelle, people are really scared right now. People are not confident in the market. They are nervous about what's going on. And so it's okay to be nervous. If you're unsure about your accounts, have a conversation with someone. You might not feel so bad once you have that conversation, even if we don't recommend any changes. Sometimes just having that peace of mind of having a conversation is enough. All right. So thinking about saving for education, again, we've kind of talked about how now might be a difficult time to save, but we know that saving for longer term goals is important. So just wanted to remind everyone on this call that there are ways where you can receive matching dollars for different things like saving for college expenses for your children or your grandchildren, and also saving for long-term investments like retiring. So it's escaping me right now, Sam. What is the 529 Next Gen, right?
Next Gen. Yep.
Is the college savings plan that's available for Maine residents, and there's definitely some matching dollars that are available. So if you are looking at this slide and shaking your head and saying there's no way I'm going to have $200,000 saved for my kids' education, especially if I haven't started yet, how do I get started? Next Gen is a program where there are matching dollars available. In some cases, you can get a dollar for dollar match up to a threshold, and it changes every year, for saving for your child's education expenses or your grandchild's education expenses. So I would encourage you, if you'd like more information about that, please don't hesitate. It's not administered through KeyBank. It's actually administered through another company, but we're more than happy to help you with the details and navigating how to save using a college savings plan. And in addition to that, sometimes I get the question, people will say, well, why should I save for college if I don't even know if my kids are going to go to college? What's going to happen to that money if they don't end up using it for college? And so there are some great provisions with these types of accounts where you can either transfer the money that you've personally put in to another family member to use, so that you can still take advantage of the tax benefits of the college savings account. Or if, worst case scenario, you end up, nobody goes to college, nobody uses it for college, the money at least has been set aside in an account that you've accumulated some value in. And, worst case scenario, you end up paying taxes on the money that you withdraw. It's not like it's one of these deals where if you don't use it for college, you've just wasted your money. It is still in a savings account that belongs to you, and it can be used with just some additional, taxes. You wouldn't get the tax-free benefits of the college savings. Anything to add there on college savings, Sam, or things that you've heard or seen out in the world?
Yeah, it's best to just start early and start putting it away, something that you're not going to look at, and it's really important. And if you don't know it's there, it's just growing. And like Michelle said, if you don't use it, the worst thing you're going to do is pay some taxes on it. So
Absolutely.
and I'll just add also in there, it's nice to help your kids or grandkids with college because it is really expensive. Because of a lot of clients I do see, they had no college savings and they're paying a lot back, and that sometimes will hamper the rest of their finances as soon as they get out of college, and then they're financially not in a great place.
I completely agree, Sam. Absolutely. So planning for retirement, I know planning for retirement, like I said, people kind of put it off. I did just want to, quickly show an example that the earlier you start saving, the better. When you think about planning for retirement, think about the lifestyle that you want to have in retirement. And this slide says, generally speaking, you'll need to replace 75 to 85% of your final salary per year in retirement. That's sort of a baseline when you're thinking about planning for retirement. But at the end of the day, if you want your lifestyle to be better in retirement than it is today, having saved more is going to definitely be to your advantage. The 75 to 85% number really comes from the fact that you're no longer paying into Social Security. You're expected to maybe be in a lower tax bracket. You're not paying into, Medicare and that type of thing. So it really, that's the only reason you get a reduction in what you're going to need for income when you get into retirement. But if you're planning on traveling, seeing the world, visiting family, those types of things, the more that you can save now for your retirement, the better off you're going to be. And so we do highly encourage anyone that has an option of a matching dollar amount, whether it's in a 401k or a 403b, to at least make sure you're taking advantage of that match. And remember, if you're contributing on a pre-tax basis, if your contribution amount is $100, that doesn't mean it's going to be $100 less out of your paycheck. It's going to be more like $75 less out of your paycheck because it's pre-tax money that you're contributing. It's reducing that taxable income that you have. So you can see here, in this example, it's never too early to start. This example really just shows someone that invested $3,000 a year, which doesn't really seem like much, starting at age 25 and continued that pattern up until age 70, assuming that they were receiving a modest rate of annual growth. They would actually have a significant amount of money set up in the retirement account. So what does it say here? It says $500,000 is about what you'd have. $3,000 a year from 25 to 70, you'd have $500,000. That's significant. And the reason it's significant is because of that compounding growth over time. So the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. But don't feel like, okay, I'm 45, it's too late. It is what it is. The time frame between 45 and 65 is still 20 years, right? That's 20 years that you have to be able to save toward that long-term goal. So it's never too late to start. And I always recommend using a company-sponsored plan, whether there is a match or whether there isn't a match, as a first place to save when it comes to retirement. Number one, because you never see the money, so it's not a conscious choice every single time. And number two, you're really just taking advantage of maximizing your contributions and the tax savings. Sam, what else would you add here when it comes to saving for retirement?
So I actually just read a really great article last night. And the biggest mistake that people make is not saving for retirement early. And I can tell you from just firsthand experience from being here in the branch that, 9 times out of 10, when I sit down with clients, that is something that we go over. And that's something that they said that they wish they had done differently, was saving earlier, because, when you reach that point where you want to start retiring, sometimes it's difficult to see that you might have to extend it a little bit longer because you hadn't saved a little earlier. So definitely very important.
I couldn't agree more. There's actually some calculators out there. We have one on key.com. It's a retirement savings calculator. I would recommend anybody go in and take a look at that and see the difference that time can make when it comes to your retirement savings. It's really hard having a conversation with someone that says, okay, I'm ready to retire. I've saved this much money and I feel really good about it, and come to find out this much money isn't going to give them the quality of lifestyle that they really, have been working towards their entire lives. So it's better to plan early, have conversations early, and
Yeah.
really just contribute as much as you can.
Yep. I will say that, like, the magic number that we like to see people, see us 5 years before you plan on retiring, so that, we know that you're on the right path. And if not, we can, make some changes. That's the magic
Absolutely.
number.
So I've heard people say, I don't want to put money in my retirement account because I'm worried about the stock market. And also, I am worried that I might need that money for something else. You just told me, Michelle, that people don't have $400 in an emergency fund. So why should I be putting that money in my retirement account? Where should I be putting that money? And what recommendations do you have? And so I can kind of give you my thoughts, and then Sam, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Um, First priority, when I think about savings, is always taking advantage of any company matches that you may have available to you, even if it means putting a line of credit in place before you can get that emergency savings into the place that it really should be. But you're leaving money on the table if you're not contributing to at least get your company match. So I would say, put the money into your retirement account, get those tax benefits, get the company match. And not that we recommend it, but if worst case scenario happens, you are allowed to take certain types of withdrawals from a retirement account in unique situations without penalty. So one being to buy your first home, another one being for certain medical expenses. Right now, there's a provision that if you've been impacted by COVID-19, you can actually take a penalty-free withdrawal from your retirement account. Again, not what we recommend, but I share this with you because it it doesn't mean it's locked up without ever having a key. That money can be accessible to you in certain situations, and it really does make sense to take advantage of those matching dollars. And like I said, either put a line of credit in place sometimes to be able to bridge that gap when it comes to the short term, maybe unexpected emergencies. Not that we want people putting a bunch of money on credit cards. That's don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but that's sort of what I would usually recommend when I was in a branch. I don't know, Sam, what are your thoughts on that, or what other advice would you give?
Yeah, if you're not meeting your employer match on your 401k, you're leaving money on the table. I feel like it's super important, um, and just make small changes. I mean, I would definitely say, go with the 401k. If your employer is going to match, you definitely want to put your money there. I know a lot of people are nervous about the stock market, but the thing, it bounces back. I mean, historically. So, and it could come back better than ever. You don't know. But if you have an employer match, definitely I'd be utilizing that.
Well, it's such a, I mean, if you think about it this way, if you have a dollar for dollar match, so you put in a dollar, your employer puts in a dollar, you've already got 100% rate of return, right? So
Huge. Yeah.
even if the stock market, your investment drops 50%, you're still up because you got free money from the company that you work for.
Exactly.
So, if you kind of think about it that way, it really is a no-brainer to make sure that you're taking advantage of those matching dollars.
It's
And
the best kind of savings account.
yep. And if you're not quite there and you're thinking, it'd be great if I could do my full match right now, I just can't. Uh, Time-tested advice that I've used and given to others is whenever you get a raise, put half in your 401k, right? So if you get a 2% raise, put one in your 401k or your 403b and keep the other one. Give yourself a little reward, right? But continually grow that through money that you weren't counting on to begin with. You've been getting along just fine without, and throwing that into the retirement savings. All right, so here's, these are the contribution limits for 2020. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail on this, but really the moral of the story here is that you can put more money in a 401k or a 403b than you can in an IRA. So if you're considering making contributions to any type of retirement account and you have a 401k or a 403b as an option, you should be doing that first before you're considering an IRA. And if you want more information, we can certainly get into a lot more detail. So, we've talked a little bit about this already. Starting automatic transfers, again, great way to just start small, start with, whatever money you think is laughable, and wouldn't even make an impact. Start putting that into your savings plan as an automatic savings, even if it's $1 a month, right? And then reassess, continue to grow, look at your spending. That $16 a month that you mentioned on the subscription, Sam, that's $192 a year, right?
Mhm.
Maybe that's what I'm going to have to start out as my automated savings. I'm going to
Yep.
pay myself once a month. I'm going to pay myself the 16 instead of paying Netflix, right? Or whoever
Yep.
the company was. But the most important piece is don't just let that money get lost in your budget. Don't just pat yourself on the back and say, well, I turned off my Netflix. That's hooray for me. You really have to put that money somewhere in order to really see the value in making that change. And it might not be a forever change, right? It might be a change until you hit a certain goal that you've set for yourself. So reallocating your discretionary spending, I think we talked about that too. And then, having a conversation, having a financial wellness review, I think is so important. If anybody's on this call and they haven't had a financial wellness review in the last year, I highly suggest that you do so. And Sam, can you talk a little bit about what's involved with a financial wellness review? What sorts of things would a person expect to talk about during a financial wellness review?
So we're going to talk about everything. I just had a virtual wellness review, which we can do now via Zoom, which is very convenient for some clients. We talk about your dogs, that are in the background, but truly we talk about every aspect. We talk about what kind of checking accounts and savings accounts you have. We talk about what your goals are, what your retirement savings look like. We look at, do you have credit card balances? What's your interest rate on your auto loan? Where can we save you money and where we can add value for you? And even if, you don't do something with Key, maybe you just do something. Maybe you go back to your banker and you say, is this something that I can do? We're giving you the tools to, bring financial wellness to you and see where we can save you money and make your life a little bit less stressful.
I couldn't agree more, but you didn't say it yet. Make yourself a priority, right,
Yes,
Sam?
every time, make yourself a priority. People put themselves on the back burner, Michelle, and I see it all the time. And there's no time like the present to make yourself a priority and put yourself first, because if you start today is day one on your new financial wellness journey, and, making, your future a little bit easier and stress-free. And everyone's goals are different. So make yourself the priority.
Yep. And every person, and I've never heard someone say, if I could be doing better, I would be doing better, right? I mean, that's what people say. They say, I'm doing the best I can, right? I'm
Yep.
doing everything that I can do. That the money is just not here. Or I can't save because I just don't have enough. Get another set of eyes.
Yep.
And hopefully it's not, the relative that knows it all at the Thanksgiving dinner table. Seek the advice from a professional in a confidential way where you can get some good advice, some solid advice, and then you always decide. You always decide what you're
Yep.
going to do with that information, whether you're going to, make some changes or whether you're going to kind of stay the course and be happy with what you've been doing and what you're going to continue to do. So I appreciate. I've actually seen you do a couple of these reviews, Sam, and I know it's really about just helping the individual figure out where they are and where they want to be and what
Yeah.
steps they can take to get there.
It's not products, Michelle, and I think a lot of people think going into it that that's what it is, and it's not. It's about what's important to them and how we can help them get there.
Well, I look forward to hearing about any future questions that anyone on this call has. There should be, if you're listening to a recording, there'll be a little quiz that will follow this. So look forward to seeing, well, I won't see the results either, but look forward to seeing any appointments that may come from listening to a recording. I don't believe we have any questions in the chat box at this point. So we are, looks like we're going to wrap up a few minutes early, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But, any closing thoughts, Sam, or anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up today's call?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is, like I just said, make yourself a priority. With COVID, things are changing and they're changing rapidly. And, you should take a look at your finances. There's different ways. You don't have to necessarily come into a branch anymore, which I find nice. So, you can make an appointment to do something over Zoom. Just reach out. Don't hesitate to ask questions.
And we'll get to see all your, well, I won't, but Sam will get to see your animals in action in your
Yes.
house if you're doing the Zoom meeting. You guys probably heard my dogs barking earlier. So it happens every time on these 3:00 calls. But yeah, so I really appreciate the time today, Sam. I appreciate, you taking the time out of your day to have this conversation with me and to share the information with the employees of the Maine Veterans Homes. And with that, I think we can wrap up today's call.
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks so much,
Michelle.
ladies. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.